Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chasing Rank. It is another Tuesday night, and we are live. With you tonight is myself and Damo. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. I'm in a bit of the wars health-wise. I've got my hydrolyte here, and we've been dealing with temperatures all day, you name it. But in terms of FPL, glad to be here for another pod, mate. Glad to be here for another pod.
Yeah, I think we're both in the wars when it comes to FPL at the moment. It was an interesting game week, as I'm sure everybody in the chat knows. Dom will be joining us a little bit later. He's just got some stuff that's popped up that was out of his control, so he should be here soon. So if you are already here, get in the chat. Let us know what you scored this week, because the average is 44, and in some of the circles that I've play in, 44 would be a very, very strong score. So I feel like this week might have been a week either for the super engaged or for the casual, because there was a few bits and bobs of news that, you know, if you weren't active at the deadline, you missed some big news around Erling Haaland and Phil Foden. And had we had our time again, you know, Dame and I were all together Saturday night, you know, we were out and about with people, and it's the last thing you want to do is be social and then be checking your phone constantly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for us, the normal Saturday deadline's dinner time for us. So it's not ideal for us. And as part of FPL, you know, when you look at a fixture like Wolves at home, you're going, oh, give me some of that. But, you know, there was definitely a benching risk for Haaland there. But we both captained him. We'll get into our teams a little bit later. But let us know in the chat how you guys went. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get straight into Fallers and Ballers, because as Damo mentioned, the weather here is extremely hot, and it's still extremely hot. For us, it's 8 p.m. and it's still sitting over 30-odd degrees. So it is cooking in here. Jackie, hopefully you are doing well. Now, to my right, so don't mind if I'm looking this way as I go through Dom's team, but 30 points on the week. I guess his ballers would be Semenyo Rogers. He was in the same camp as me, holding Semenyo through the transfer, and that's been a very, very good decision in the end. He seems to be the guy that is going to get the natural rest in those competitions outside of the Premier League, because he's cup tied in the Carabao Cup, I'm assuming, and he's not registered for the last game this week of the Champions League. So I think he's going to be a good asset if you own him. Again, I wouldn't go buy him, but he is good enough if you own him. And I'd say Dom's other baller would be Morgan Rogers with an assist in that 2-0 win against Newcastle. Once again, unfortunately, Dom does bench Dorgu points. He's benched quite a lot of Dorgu's points since he brought him in. So I don't know how happy he'd be with that. But again, we said this last week, are you really going to play Dorgu against Arsenal? Probably not. So when it comes to fallers, I'd say Dom would lean on maybe his Liverpool boys and Foden there as well. I don't know why he brought Gakpo in. We actively told him not to, but anyway, he's a grown man that can make his own decisions. So my team, 32 points, not a whole lot better. I wasn't sure where I was going with my transfers. Now I've just spoiled one of my transfers here as well. I have brought in Bruno Fernandes early for Phil Foden. I made this move ahead of the United game, which I never do either. But I made 3 moves last week, and it was to move my Arsenal asset from Raya to Gabriel. So that involved me bringing in Sanchez and Virgil van Dijk. I wasn't going to start Virgil even if he was still in my squad. I was going to play Alderete against West Ham away. So I didn't miss out too much there. But obviously, it's annoying that I've had Virgil since like game week 4, and he decides to score a goal as I sell him. And Sanchez, Chelsea, we'll get onto them a little bit later, but very disappointed not to keep a clean sheet there, especially being 3-0 up and conceding a consolation goal. But I'm all right with that. And Iliman and Jai came in for me for Bruno Guimaraes when I was pretty certain he wasn't going to play. Ballers, Enzo and Semenyo, similar to Dom. And if I had to give a third, it's obviously Tarkovsky. Watching that live this morning was very frustrating. That first 35 minutes was a basketball game until Leeds scored. And Jai was on 7 DC at halftime, and I'm like, oh, here's a sneaky. If he can get a return and get the other 5 DC, then this could be a good return. And I'm assuming that Everton must have just had the ball in the second half. I went to work and couldn't watch the second half. So I'm assuming Everton must have done the attacking in the second half, because I don't think Njai picked up another DC, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. So they're my ballers. My fallers, hard because I don't want to count Arsenal defensive ballers. I think they just had a stinker of a game against Man United. So I'll give Gabriel and Timber a break. Timber was so close to 2 returns as well, which is frustrating. He was inches away from the own goal, and then he was inches away from tapping in the Marino shot as well. And another day he walks away with 2 goals, and I'm screaming the house down. So I'll give Timber a break. I'll give Rice a break because he put one on an absolute platter for Zubimendi, which he puts off target as well. So really, for me, it's Foden, and that's why he's left my side already. So Foden is my big faller this week. I can live with the Haalands. I can live with Ekatike. The benching again is probably justified. It's that time of season. There's so many games going that it's going to happen, and you can't avoid it. And I didn't really have much on my bench. I missed out on 2 points from Dubravka, and that was it. So it's not like I got hurt by my bench. So, Damo, let's go through yours, and then I'll address a few of the comments there before we get into our chat for the week.
Yep, perfect. Same as you. Got 32 points. Big red arrow. Seems to be the crux of my season is that I'll get back inside the top 100K, get to about 70, 60K, and then have a big red the next week. It's happened out of the last 6 weeks. I've had one massive green followed by one massive red, and it just keeps going up and down. So fortunately can't get off the roller coaster, and that's because I'm in a position where I have, I didn't have enough transfers really to do anything. Like Paul mentioned, me and him were out. We were out for dinner and then a mate's place, so we weren't able to get the early team news because we weren't sitting at home being antisocial. And if we did, we probably would have seen me sell Foden before the deadline. I can give you guys a big tip. Paul's done Bruno to Foden. I've also done the same already as well. I did it after the United game when there was no injury. In terms of fallers, obviously the Man City boys, because they got benched against Wolves, it always hurts. The other big faller for me here is just the Arsenal defense, triple Arsenal defense. They do look like a team that just seem destined to throw away this title and just seem to have one good week, one bad week. Obviously, I'll continue to live and die by the sword because they are statistically the best defense in the Prem. But definitely on wild card, looking to flick him out. Speaking of wild card, there is potential that if I get into some strife, I might pull it this week anyhow, but that's very, very unlikely. In terms of the ballers, there's obviously 3 ballers out there. Virgil finally scores, even though I'm wanting to sell him for the last 5 weeks. Just haven't had enough free transfers to do it. It's nice to see him score. Morgan Rogers, fantastic to get a return. I've been pretty bullish on him. I've had him for quite a number of weeks, and we'll hold him throughout the rest of the season. And Mukiele, even if they suddenly concede, he seems to pop up with an assist. And then when Sunderland keep a clean sheet, he seems to hit his DC. Just seems super solid. Absolutely happy with him. 2 free transfers this week. Hopefully getting, I've already got Bruno in, planning to do Mintator Enzo, and hopefully then be able to roll just a little bit before I can get rid of Virgil and Wildcard. The team's nowhere near a great spot. I've been saying for the last few weeks that I expect myself to fall out to the 300K mark before I make an assault back after a wildcard. So to still be at 140K, I'm happy. But at the same time, this was a pretty awful game week and pretty annoying after an amazing game week 22.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where if you didn't own an Arsenal defense and you didn't captain Haaland, like if I knew that team used 100% captain Semenyo, that's a huge swing for me. He also had one that come off the underside of the bar too, and him scoring that doesn't even save my week from a red arrow. I was 30 or 35K last week out to 56. But we move on anyway. I was going to say, did you see the ball that Mukiel put in for Brobby's header? It is glorious. A glorious ball. Yeah, it was just like overlapping run from right back, just throwing everything at it and just whipped it in to the penalty spot. And Brobby just, all he had to do was get his head on it. So interesting game here, West Ham. I think we've started to talk about them. I've sort of said the last couple of weeks when I've mentioned West Ham, looking better, not going to go there. Jared Bowen, I'm looking at him versus Ekatike. It's tempting. If I'm going to keep the same structure I'm in, I'm very, very tempted by Jared Bowen. And I'm starting to think him versus Thiago is a fair argument for that second. I'm not going to call it a premium forward, but it's like second start every game type forward because he just looks good. The system they're playing now with these other strikers, he's back out on that right wing position, so he's not playing as the striker. Yes, his goal comes from the penalty spot, but he just looks better with better players around him. And it's kind of what he's been lacking. He just needed some quality up front. And Tati actually looked really good. He looked really solid in this. I pretty much watched the whole game. I ended up on Saturday night. And I was impressed. I was impressed with Somerville. He was really direct. I don't think he's the kind of player that's going to stay fit for long enough. But if West Ham can keep the core of Somerville, Bowen, Pablo, Tati, Fernandez, Paqueta when he comes back as well, there is a core there for goals. Now, will I go Diouf? Probably not again, because I don't think West Ham will keep clean sheets. But they're going to score goals, and they're not going to die trying, not trying. So they really said this is a game we have to get 3 points in, and they look really good. So I know probably one for you to watch the highlights of, Dame, because it was good to watch West Ham actually play like the side we thought they could be at the start of the season. Now, before we jump on, I did miss a few comments here. So Border 60 for this week is fantastic, even with Haaland captain. So I had Cash, Dorgu, Wilson, Zabozla, Semenyo. That's a very, very good week. Jackie 34 joined the club. Benched Cunha. That's an interesting call to bench Cunha. I don't know what the rest of your team looks like, Jackie, but I almost would have flipped it, which would have been just as good, I guess. Dorgu gets more for the goals, so probably made the right decision to play Dorgu in the end. But now, unfortunately, he's injured. And M's 38K. I've been in and around those areas for a while this season, so hopefully you can keep grinding that up the ranks as well. 45 is interesting that got you a green up to 38K too. So probably shows that there wasn't heaps in it this week. So Burnley Spurs, probably the biggest nothing game of all time. Romero goes from villain to hero. I don't know if you've seen the defending on bloody Burnley. I think it's their second goal, and he just lets him run through. And there's just he does not provide any defense whatsoever. But then he goes and scores an absolute bullet header down the other end, which was brilliant. I must say the ball from Kyle Walker, I don't know if you've seen that, Dame, as well. He's an absolute peach. That was a peach. So, again, I'm not looking in too much to what either of these sides are doing. I don't think there's anything fancy relevant really in these games.
No.
Interesting, though, that from a Spurs defense, I feel like it's been a few times now that we've seen Van de Ven and Romero contributing. If Thomas Frank manages to lose his job at some point, there could be a world where if they get the right manager, that like a Van de Ven or a Romero could actually be a decent option. Probably more. I'd rather pay up for Romero just for the DC, but I wouldn't do it under Thomas Frank because it's just we're not seeing the clean sheets. But really, what defenses are keeping clean sheets? That's sort of where I'm at the moment. Like, I don't think there's really a team anymore that's consistently keeping clean sheets. And I think where you're going to get big green arrows is if you can time them all together. And we get a good comment there. Get Ange in from the hippopotamus.
Never should have got rid of it.
Get Ange back. Probably not good for the defensive numbers, but better for the attacking numbers. But anyway, Fulham Brighton, as a Minte owner, Damo, any thoughts on the
I need to get he's another one that I need to get rid of. Like, I have 5-6 players that I would not be near, but I've unfortunately been in this position without having too many transfers, and then injuries means I haven't been able to roll. And I wouldn't be going anywhere near Minte. He's obviously got this injury, and we don't know how long he's not going to be able to play 94. Played 10 minutes, didn't look like doing much. Wouldn't go anywhere near a Brighton attacking asset. I wouldn't personally go near their defense, but maybe someone like Van Heck could be an option. I think Fulham is the key takeout from this game. Is again, they look really good. And if you remember back to last year, we had a period where we all got on Fulham assets, and it might just be that they're hitting their straps again. Doesn't have to be Harry Wilson, but there's a lot of people that still own Harry Wilson. I think they've been a bit jammy, to be honest, that they've got so many points from Harry Wilson.
That is killing us.
But I do think that, Anderson at the back, with the amount of DC he gets, could be really good. And even though he doesn't score in this game, I think a differential strike on Raul, who seems to be locked for minutes, seems to be a not bad shout as well.
I think for Wilson owners, beware of Oscar Bob. Sounds like he's coming in on loan as well, and that is the definition of direct competition on that right wing spot. And Fulham, it's the one area they've got numbers, but it looks like Adama Traore is going to go out on loan as well. So I think there's going to be some movement in that front four. So, maybe one of those ones, do you cash in on a Wilson on your wild card and go, thank you very much, young man, for what you've contributed. But also just be aware that he has an expiring contract that he has not signed. And typically, if you get to the end of the January transfer window and you're not signed up, typically means you are
going.
on your means you're going. And I think the season he has had, he deserves a better deal somewhere else. So that's why I'm expecting this Oscar Bob to come in and take some minutes away as Harry joins us. Welcome, Harry. And don't be surprised if Bob going out opens the door for a Cole Palmer, whether it be now or whether it be next season. But I think these rumours of him being homesick are starting to pick up some volume, and people are tying the no celebration last week to him not being happy in London and all the rest of it. So, I don't know how we got on here from Harry Wilson, but just expect that, there might be more to the Cole Palmer saga as well. So it's all linked together. I don't think Cole Palmer goes in this window, if I'm honest, but don't be surprised if City get first dibs next season. Speaking of Man City, maybe I set that up nicely. 2-0 Wolves. I think we covered enough about the negatives in this one. Semenyo is just absolutely locking himself into this starting 11 to the point where I don't think I could sell him. He's just going to keep playing. Look, when Champions League knockouts roll around, then it's going to be a different story. But the way that they're using Foden and Cherky as the dual 10s and then Doku and Semenyo out wide, I can't see myself really wanting to sell him, which is frustrating because I really want to get on Mbeumo if he's playing in the 9 for Manchester United as well. But you can't have everybody, and you can't afford everybody, and that's part of FPL. And maybe I have to sacrifice Ekatike in order to make that happen. But thoughts on Semenyo before we move on to?
Yeah, I think he's an outrageous footballer. I think he's fantastic. There's one where he hit the post late doors as well with an absolute rocket
off a Foden assist.
Yeah, which would have been nice for Foden. He's still going to go out my team anyway after the benching. But yeah, I thought that would have been I think he's looked really good. I think the player that, and the system that they played, Marmoush looked, I thought, fantastic in this game as well. It'll be interesting to see if he gets a run of minutes because he could be an option maybe. This is not what's going to happen, but I actually thought City were more dynamic without Haaland on the park. I know Haaland's very much just stands in the central area, doesn't really touch the ball and then scores. I really think the way that City lined up against Wolves was really good for them. Not saying that they're going to start benching Haaland moving forward, but maybe food for thought if you're someone that's maybe wanting to chase their rank, get into that time of the season. Wouldn't do it right away, but definitely think maybe at some point going against the robot might be on the cards the last 5-8 game weeks. So
yeah, I think it's one of those ones where there was enough noise about him needing a rest as well, and maybe we were a bit naive not to look into that as well. Without news, maybe we could have preemptively thought maybe it's not the time for him to jam another 90 minutes in, and that's a lesson learned. Look, I personally didn't really have an option. I wanted to play off my bench anyway. But when I'm looking at Alderete or Dallo, for me it made more sense to start Haaland regardless, but maybe the captaincy could have been something different. So anyway, that's just hindsight for me. Look, Wolves, we spoke about them last week, having turned a corner. They are looking better. Do I think anyone's a buy there? Not really, other than Mane, if you're going to dead end the forward spot for that double game week. But the issue with the double game week is you're going to get a game of Arsenal in there, so it kind of doesn't feel like it's a real double game week. I thought you were going to chip in there, Dame.
Sorry, I'm actually trying to hold on for dear life here at the second.
All good.
Hydrolight's going through me. Yes, Mane would be fantastic, and I think moving to 4-5-1, I've mentioned this plenty of times before with Mane and Krupi, who did start for Bournemouth. We're about to get to that game as well. I think could definitely be an option, and maybe the meta, especially if Wolves are getting this double game week. And
yeah, I like it. Let's go. Bournemouth, Liverpool, talking about Krupi. Frustrating result for us. I don't know. We could be here all night talking about Liverpool, but
It was nice to see Salah start and play reasonably well. It wasn't like great Salah, but yeah, when you're thinking about going against Haaland, you have to go somewhere else, right? And it could be an amazing differential. I just don't know how many runner starts he gets. From a Liverpool perspective, outside of Florian Wirtz, who I thought actually looked fairly decent without a return in this game, I don't think there's anywhere else you would go. I wouldn't go near Akatike with the injury concerns. What I will say is Bournemouth are definitely a team that we probably want a couple assets from. You know, had Krupi in this one. You know, Evan Nielsen scored 4 in his last 5 now, I believe. Senesi, DC looked really good. Hill's a 3.9 million defender, so that is playing. And Iraola came out and said, you know, I'm happy if he takes his chance to keep playing him. And it seems like he has, and he's looked really good. So 3.9 mil, if he's playing 90 minutes and getting DC, he's definitely one for the wild cards as well. You know, there's a lot of money to spend if you go 4-5-1 and you go Mane, Krupi, and Hill. You know,
yeah,
so
and you can load up that midfield with Bruno and Buemo and co. So I think that is definitely the play. Look, as a Nekatike owner, I'm going to try and ride it out for the next week or so and see where things go and try and see where that lands me. But there's a good comment there. Not so much about VVD being past his best, because his best is arguably one of the best centre backs in the Premier League. But our numbers look all right. Our chances are there, and I'm just sick of talking about it to the point where I'm like, yeah, whatever. We'll find ways to concede. So I'm not long-term worried about selling Verge. It's even more frustrating that he dropped off his DC for so long as well, and he goes and gets a goal and DC in this one, but it is what it is. So Forest and Brentford. I don't think this is a result anyone saw coming, especially
not at all.
The Brentford Community Stadium, whatever the hell it's called. Haven't seen a whole lot from this game, if I'm honest. The fact that there's 2, 4, 5 Forest players getting DC probably tells you what happened in the game. That Forest soaked up all that pressure and went bang and did Sean Dyche things.
Yep.
I think if Forest can play that way moving forward, they will get results like this moving forward, because this was a typical Nottingham Forest under Nuno performance.
Yeah.
And
this
agree. Suits them to a T. So Elliot Anderson ticking over with 5 points, constantly ticking over with 5 points. I wish his attacking numbers were a bit stronger, but every time I log on and look at Forest, he's at 13, 14, 18 DC. He is just an absolute beast. We see Milenkovic, we see Murillo both getting DC in this one. Not saying to go and buy anyone from Forest, but I think they're worthy of a watch list. If they get a run that's good enough.
Yeah, I definitely think Murillo or Milenkovic, if they're going to play this deep, which I think they should. I didn't see this coming. Someone that bought Thiago when I had very little transfers to solve the Walter Marte issue. Really wish that I just either rolled and just, dead benched Walter Marte, or because that was one of the free transfers that I really did not have that I had to use, I felt. And he's been shocking. I think Brentford have been shocking. I think I've got on and cursed them. I don't know where to go from Brentford, especially at home. Like, they're meant to be this really good side at home, and I think they will be. I wouldn't panic just yet, but yeah, I definitely think that they're a team that is not firing on all cylinders, and definitely agree with the watch list for Forest players.
Yeah, so we get an interesting point here. Would you buy? I wouldn't be buying now, but just keep an eye on. Just if things start to turn around, then if Forest start playing a bit more under the Nuno methodology that they did last year, then I think they're interesting. Speaking of interesting, Chelsea Palace.
That Chelsea Palace game is quite interesting. I'm just going to be right back, Paulie, so don't stress.
Easy, no dramas. Very much watching this one with a lot of intrigue and interest. Estevao, goal and assist. Dom's been talking about him a lot this year alongside Pedro Neto. I think it's now time to buy for Chelsea. Their run really picks up. So if I look at Enzo, who I brought in, they get West Ham at home, Wolves away, Leeds at home, Burnley at home. I think it's right now full time to buy the Chelsea assets. I went Sanchez, who frustratingly doesn't get the clean sheet, which would have been nice. especially being 3-0 up at that point. It would have been nice for Chelsea to see that out. But I think at home, Chelsea's defense is going to be quite solid. Crystal Palace, do not go near any Palace asset at the moment, guys. I would be avoiding them 100% at this stage because they just do not look the same side. So I would be definitely not going near Crystal Palace. Villa, Newcastle, we've spoken a bit about Villa and Newcastle already on the pod. Or more Villa, Buendia, Watkins. We spoke about Watkins if he's going to lock in this number 9 spot. Longer term, that he could be a really good option when the run is actually quite good for Aston Villa anyway. So I think he is a very good option. Morgan Rogers goes and gets DC as well, which is frustrating for my end as someone who doesn't own Rogers. But I think if I was going to buy a Villa asset, it would be Morgan Rogers. Don't know if I'd be going on their defense, though. They do typically find a way to concede goals. Newcastle, no Bruno, no Joe Linton for a lot of this as well. So I wouldn't read too much into it. And Man United and Arsenal, I kind of wanted to wait for Damo to do this one, so I might get his thoughts on it when he returns. But what a game of football this was. Arsenal, as Damo's mentioned, not looking the business for the league at the moment. They're 4 points clear, but I think there are big flaws in their game. From a fantasy perspective, I think it's the defense and you just back in the numbers. We haven't seen too much to prove that they're not going to continue with these better defensive numbers. But Man United are definitely looking the business. I'm intrigued to see what they look like in a game where they're expected to win. I think we've seen a lot of good performances from United when they've been the underdog, but I want to see them this week against Fulham where Fulham might say, all right, you've been good on the break, but let's see if you can break us down and we'll try and hit you on the break. So I'm going to be watching the Man United Arsenal game with lots of intrigue. Bruno Fernandes has come in for Damo and I, and this effective ownership of 30%. If he can continue to return whilst he's lowly owned, then that will be fantastic. Dorgu, definitely watch for news on how serious his injury is as well, guys. That is what I would be looking for. And then Everton Leeds, nothing major to talk about in this game as well. I think Leeds actually had quite a few chances in this one early. Could have probably killed it off before half-time, but Everton go and get their equaliser. And Iliman Ndiaye, as I said, was on 7 DC at half-time and he bloody finished on 7 overall. Tarkovsky gets there on 12 and Branthwaite got his first minute from half-time as well, which is nice to see Jared Branthwaite back in the side. So if you want, guys, get your questions in the chat. I'm going to just go through some transfer targets for us ahead of this week and beyond. And it's interesting that excluding Haaland, Bruno Fernandes over the next 7 weeks is the top performing or highest scoring predicted player in the game. And I think that is justified. Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham, Everton, Palace, Newcastle, Villa, Bournemouth is a good enough run for Manchester United for Bruno to be a really solid option. And I think it might be time, if you're a Foden owner, to make that switch across as Damo rejoins. I think Bruno is number 1 transfer target this week. Thoughts, Damo?
Yeah, I think he has to be. I think we mentioned this on the last couple of weeks that this is the perfect getting on point. Great fixtures, multiple routes to points, and look, he's been fantastic since coming back. So, yeah, I think he is the best transfer that you can make this week. So much so that I notoriously don't move early, nor do you. We both moved early for him. So, yeah,
I agree on that one. And 1 game a week for me is why I love it. He can just focus on playing in the Premier League now, and Carrick gets another week on the track with this side. I was just saying before, it's going to be interesting to see these next 2 weeks when Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham, Everton, they're not going to fancy themselves maybe in this one. They're going to sit in a little bit more. So it's going to be interesting to see how United react into a game where they're expected to be on the front foot, where the last couple of games they've been on the back foot and looking to counter. So I'm intrigued to see, does Diallo start on the wing? Does Mbeumo start on the wing? Do they start a Sesko for a bit more physicality up front? Do they go Cunha left wing if Dorgu? So there's a few questions there on United, but I'm intrigued to see. Gabriel comes in at second. Now, that's obviously for the combination of his goal threat and clean sheet potential.
Yep.
Leeds, Sunderland, Brentford, Tottenham, Chelsea, Brighton, Everton, Wolves. I just think, regardless of the performance this week, I still think he is the best defensive asset in the game. And at 37.2% ownership, I think that's a good enough differential to have. Because if everything goes his way, then that will rocket your rank up. So if you don't have Gabriel, he is the defensive transfer. If you've got the Arsenal spot, that I'd be looking at as well. I know we're looking at two very premium players, but I think they're there for a reason. Thiago, I would be avoiding. Villa, Newcastle, Arsenal, Brighton's not the easiest month. If things start to turn around for Brentford, you could start looking at a wild card 28, 29, 30 and get him in around that run. But now we have to start considering his price. He's no longer 6.5. He's up to 7.2. I actually think it makes a difference now. So probably not looking at Thiago. It's pretty much 4-5-1 or hold, I think, or it's Bowen, really, around the same price for me. Declan Rice, I love him as a pick, but you have to be prepared to ride the bad games with him. Unfortunately, a lot of his routes to points don't involve him scoring a lot. So you're relying on people like Zubimendi on putting the easiest header to get on target. But I still think he has a very good baseline between his DC and his assist threat and the set pieces. I think he is going to be fine. So I'm fine with Declan Rice. Saka, I would not touch with a 10-foot pole.
Nowhere near. Yep. Don't go near it. I was very grateful for his points. And when I went and captained him when I went against Haaland a couple of times, it paid off. But yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere near him with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. Just way too many issues, way too many concerns with his minutes, too many games. Just not really at it at the moment. And you're looking at points per start. Give me Declan Rice at 3 mil or 2.5 mil cheaper, whatever it is. So happy enough with that. And Buemo, I think, is a really, really good shout. Whether it's right wing or striker, they're the two options he's going to play. I am a very, very big fan of that as we get Andy coming through with Saka with
let's talk FPL, Andy.
Welcome, Andy. It is sad to see with Saka. We've been talking about him quite a bit this season. And I was bullish on, I wasn't sold on the minutes. So I kind of feel a bit, vindicated on going with Declan Rice over Saka. But hopefully things are going well for you, Andy. Your rank has been absolutely flying. We've been watching with eager eyes from all the way on the other side of the world, mate. So keep up the good work. Damo, talk to me about Semenyo again. I'm just so happy he's in my side.
Yeah, I've definitely got FOMO. Fear of missing out with Semenyo. As you mentioned, he can't be registered for Champions League. He's obviously
until the next phase.
Till the next phase. Can't play in the Cabaret Cup, so he's going to be playing Premier League minutes. Again, he looked fantastic on the weekend. He's an outrageous footballer, and he's been really good for what he did at Bournemouth. And I just think with how well City play, he very much suits their game style. Watch the weekend. He looked fantastic. I still harp on about the chance he hit the post with. One of the hardest, most venomous strikes he's had this season. I think the guy's great at 48% ownership. Would I go out my way to buy him? I don't own him. Probably not. There's a half a chance a wild card this week. Would I pick him up? Maybe not. But I will also say that Spurs, Liverpool, probably two teams you can get at. Fulham's a pretty good fixture at home. They obviously had that crazy game last time. Newcastle, very hit and miss. Leeds, Forest, West Ham, Palace. How many of those games does he play? I think he plays majority. So when you think about it like that, maybe he just is the guy that you need to, if you're on a wild card, probably put in. And 7.8 mil for a City asset that seems to be starting, seems to be in great form.
Goal threat's quite high.
Yeah, I don't mind it. But I don't know if you have to go there if you don't own him.
Yeah. Before we move on, if you could hit a like on the stream, guys, it really does help us out. And also subscribe. We've picked up an extra subscriber up to 193. If we could try and get ourselves up to 200 over the next couple of weeks, that would be fantastic. So we appreciate everybody that comes through. If you could help share us around and enjoy these conversations all together, that would be fantastic. My last point on Semenyo before we move on is I just think he brings something completely different to City that they don't have. Like, Doku is a very good technical dribbler, but we know about his end product. Semenyo's not as clean as Shirky and Doku with ball at feet, but far out once he gets going, and he's strong, he's direct, he's quick, he's got a left foot, right foot, he can finish both ways. I just think Pep will absolutely love working with Semenyo, and I just hope he doesn't take that instinct away from Semenyo and allows him to play with the freedom that he did at Bournemouth. So Cole Palmer, please do not go near Cole Palmer at this point. Enzo is actually looking really good in the 10. I'm glad I got on that one as a bit of a punt myself and got a 6-pointer and a 8-pointer for me, which is brilliant. But I just don't think we can buy Palmer really at all now because we're going to miss the good run of Chelsea. I mean, look, the run for Chelsea is actually quite solid to the end of the season. It doesn't really get that bad, but I don't know. There's just, it sounds like, as I said before, there's a bit too much smoke. And when there's smoke, there's fire. And I just think there's something seriously wrong with him at the moment at Chelsea. And I just think new manager, maybe Palmer's a bit off put by that change from Maresca as well. I just think there's something off. So I would just avoid Palmer. Unfortunate, Hippopotamus bought Palmer last week. And look, I wasn't against it last week. Damo could contest to this. I was sending him drafts of my team with Palmer in it because I want the Chelsea assets. But it was going to require me to get rid of Mark Guiu, and that was the only reason why I didn't do it. So I'm kind of grateful now that I had Big Mark. And then really from this list, I'm not going near Mateta, but Watkins, Damo, if he can nail that starting striker spot, what are your thoughts from Watkins?
Yeah, look, I definitely agree. I think if he nails that starting 11 spot, this is in a Villa side. I said it last week on the pod. This is a Villa side that are in the top 4. This is a Villa side that if they go on a run, could be in this title fight come end of season. It's also a Villa side that Unai Emery, when he gets it right, gets it very right, and they can and will score goals. Like, obviously, I own Morgan Rogers, and I think he's been a great pickup for me, but I definitely think that if you're someone that has a 2-striker formation, you have Ekatike, for instance, I think there's a very good chance of taking a punt on Watkins because I think he's going to start majority of games. He's going to play close to 90, and we know what he's capable of. And he's looked a lot better than what he did at the start of the year. And he's playing in a side that I think are playing some pretty good football too. So I think everything matches up there for Ollie to go bang and do well. Take a brave manager to go there. But yeah, I think he would be fantastic.
What are your thoughts on Tammy Abraham coming in?
I think it's a good thing for him because it gives him rotation. Now, obviously, you know that I love Tammy Abraham from FM, right? Football Manager. For those that don't know, I've bought him plenty of times and plenty of saves, and he always bags in goals. I think he's fantastic, but I also think there's a world where they both play together in a 2. I can see that happening in a 2, and then you're playing 4-4-2 with Morgan Rogers probably playing out wide on one side.
And Buendia on the other.
Yeah, correct. Which could be quite dynamic as well. It's something that you want to wait and see. Yes. And that's why I wouldn't be like, takes a brave manager to go there, be a pretty cool punt. Especially if you're on a wild card this week, this could be one of those, you want to be a little bit more flary, a little bit more exciting, you want to chase that rank a little bit. Where can I go? This is maybe one of them. But in saying that, it would be nice to maybe give it game week 24, 25, 26, 27, wait until they get to Wolves. And then be like, or maybe game in 27 in Leeds and see what Tammy's done in that time as Tammy started, what can do on the bench, are they playing 4-4-2, that sort of thing. And then,
I'm just going to bring up their run briefly. I don't like doing this. So Brentford, Bournemouth, Brighton, good, not great, I think. Yep. 2 of those being at home is good for Villa. Yep. So maybe if you wait till 26, because that gives you till the 12th of February. So you're going to have plenty of time. Like, they don't play now until after the deadline. So that's probably a positive for Villa, that their next game we're going to see what their squad looks like. And Brentford's not the best entry point. Like, yes, it's Brentford at home, but they aren't the worst defense. I know they just lost 2-0, and you probably expect Brentford to sit in a little bit and be solid. So I wouldn't mind, as you said, give it to the game week 27 where it's Leeds, Wolves, Chelsea, United, West Ham, Forest, Sunderland, Fulham, Tottenham, Burnley. And then you can sell him and take a 2-week punt on someone at the end of the season, get off of him at Liverpool City. But if they're going for the title, you'd want him anyway. So it's almost a win-win. I think someone like me that's an Ekatike owner, it makes the most sense for me to hold a couple transfers till that point, and that just seems an easy sideways and just stay 3-5-2, and do that for the rest of the season. So he is definitely on my game week 27, game week 28 watch list 100%. So that is 100% what I'm looking at. I don't think there's heaps of other guys that I'm looking at. Barnes is actually looking all right, I must say. He's probably surprised me the most out of that Newcastle front three, but again, I'm not going there. Newcastle's run isn't easy. I don't love it. Ekatike, I would not be going there whatsoever. Again, the run's not bad for Liverpool, so I don't mind holding him for Newcastle. I don't really want to hold him for City, if I'm honest, but I don't really. I mean, what's Watkins got? Bournemouth. I could do that move in that week. It's literally square funds as well, so it's not that much of an issue, but I don't love it. But then I also don't love Sunderland, and I don't love Forest away. But then I like this, but then I don't really, I don't know. I'm not sold on Ekatike. And then it's starting to get to guys. I think Enzo, I'd tick that off. Bruno Guimaraes, that's the move I didn't make that move this week, but I'd be making that move 100% if I was a Bruno owner and got negative news about his injury. Timber, fine. Gakpo wouldn't go there. Ahmad's interesting as a midfielder playing out on the right wing. I don't think I could do this until at least the West Ham game and to know that he's playing right wing for another 2 weeks. Like, if you got 4 games of data from Carrick that Ahmad's the right winger and Mbuemo's the striker, then I'd do it.
Yeah,
I don't think I could do it until I had that confirmation.
Correct. I mention it all the time. When he was playing right wing back for Amarin, we really wish he was a defender because I think he would have been in a lot of people's teams. Hopefully, FPL realised that he played a lot of his games in a defensive line and he gets moved as a defender that's out of position next year. That would be great, but I don't know if they would do that. And
yeah, I agree. And then I don't really think there's a whole lot here to talk through. I think Gahey at 5.2 could be a real good option, not from now, but from 28 onwards. I think Leeds, Forest, West Ham, Palace, great run of games there. 5-2, nailed City defender with all these injuries. And I just think even when Diaz and Vardiol back, it might be that Vardiol's at left back. Diaz and Gahey become the 2 starting centre-backs, and then a Stones or a O'Reilly at right back. So I think you're not buying Gahey now to not play him. So I think that's fine. And Iliman and Jai were the last one we talked about. I brought him in this week more because I wanted to get rid of Bruno G. And that 6 million price bracket's awkward. He's my 5th midfielder, and I think he's a brilliant 5th midfielder, if I'm honest. He's on penalties. He's come straight back in and played 90 minutes as well. Yeah. I think he's going to be fine, if I'm honest. I think he'll be okay. Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth, United, Newcastle, Burnley. He just feels like a commit to 3-5-2 every week, 5th midfielder. When it doesn't work, it doesn't work. When it works, it's an absolute rank shooter. So, DEFCON as well. That's what I like about him the most. He, in a lot of games when Everton are sitting in, Tarkowski and him will both get DEFCON. And then if he gets an attacking return with that DEFCON, he's a bonus point machine too. So if you're looking at downgrading a 7, 7.5 mid to a 6 mid, I think he's a very good option.
I definitely agree.
So I'm going to get into my team.
Yep.
This is practically my bus team if it had to be for this week. I've got a hard decision to make, and it's between Tarkowski and Jai and Alderete. Something just tells me with Alderete, if this was Mukiel, this would be an even harder decision to make.
Yep.
I just think Alderete's DC is a little bit down at the moment anyway. So he's sitting first on my bench, and I don't really feel comfortable. Like, Fulham aren't the best side anyway, but it's a hard decision because I think Everton at home, for whatever, I've said this for weeks, Everton at home worry me more than Everton away when it comes to Tarkowski, DC, and clean sheet potential. So I actually think Everton are more likely to get a result in this game than they were this morning against Leeds. And 100% agree with you, Andy. If I had a Mane, this could be a bench boost. But I want to wait. I think with the chip strategy, I want to really use the triple free hit and bench boost all in and around those blanks and doubles that we're going to get. anyway. And it might be that my triple captain I use on just a really good fixture for somebody that I'm confident in. Or that I use my bench boost in one of those weeks where my team's, maybe outside of that, but I need to get rid of Mark Guiu in order to do that. But I think this will definitely be the side that rolls into game week 24 with my team, because I've already made that one free transfer anyway. I've gone and moved Bruno Fernandes in for Phil Foden. So that's happened. So I'm actually quite happy with that as an 11. What are your thoughts on my sort of 5 defenders, Damo? Where am I going in chat? Let me know, because I feel like the defense is really hard to get right this week for this side. Let me know who you'd start out of those 5.
I think you should be playing for at the back personally. Obviously, Liverpool fan, can't tell exactly. I don't think Ekitike starts again. Wirtz has looked pretty good playing in this false 9 role. He's not 100% fit and ready to start 90. I would almost say that's how you would go, and I'd put Dalot probably as your first sub.
That's what I was thinking as well.
And then, definitely agree with Andy that if you did have like Mane or Krupi, it'd probably be a very good bench boost week. Depends what you want to do with your chips, of course. I've been thinking about all sorts of chip strategies recently, and who knows? Could
bench
maybe
boost
be
is one of those ones that's just weird. Bench boost is a weird one. Like, I think we're only going to have 2 weeks really of doubles and blanks, aren't we? So your triple captain, you're going to want to use in a double, and your free hit, you're going to want to use in that big blank week. So we're in an interesting spot. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. Well, thank you very much, Andy, for popping in, mate. Absolutely appreciate your support. We'll be watching your videos when we wake up tomorrow morning, my friend.
Yep,
so you'll be on in the car on the way to work for me. So very much looking forward to that. So much appreciate your support, my friend. So that's my side at the moment, which is I think it's in a good spot. I'm actually quite comfortable with that as a rolling team moving forward anyway. So not looking to make too many transfers. Now, Damo, I can bring yours up if you want for you.
I can share. I'm sharing.
You can share yours because then you can actually go through a bit more info.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, you got it there already. There you go.
I was prepared. This is the team, the bus team as it stands at the moment. I definitely have penciled in, if I'm not wildcarding this week, Minte to Enzo. Obviously got the funds for that because I got quite a lot of money in the bank. And then obviously Bruno G would go to the bench. As you can see, the team is probably a little bit lackluster, but it's not the worst team for the week. Triple Arsenal defense against Leeds isn't bad. Mukiele against Burnley. Virgil probably has to play against Newcastle, which is not good. Maybe I start the lot, maybe. But who knows? We'll see how we go. And then, Wirtz and Bruno Fernandes, I should say, who I've just brought in, etc. That's the bus team. Very easy move, obviously, Minte to Enzo, and off we go, which is pretty cool. But what I do have for everybody, if I share my next tab, is I have got a planned wildcard team if I do decide to wildcard this week, right? So if we look at the team on paper, right, 3 mil in the bank when I built this team, which is nuts. The reason why is it gives me good flexibility if I want to chase some players later down the track. It's only 1 or 2 moves away. Second reason why I'm open to wildcarding this week, even though in previous weeks I would not, or previous seasons I wouldn't, is because you can roll your 5 free transfers and hold on to them. And, you got a lot of flexibility with 5 free transfers, like a mini wildcard anyhow. So it's not as punishing as previous years. We only got 2 free transfers. So if you don't nail your wildcard, or your structure / setup, it was very hard to get back to a more template sort of structure. Now, because you've got the 5 free transfers and I've built this team that it would roll for 3 weeks very comfortably, that I would be able to get the 3 free transfers, deal with the issues that I have in my team, and allow me to really chase some upside of some players. Let me run through the team as well and let me know what you think, Paul. Comes out as a 98%. It comes out as a 98% rating, 97 game week rating, and that's because I have got the next 3 weeks loaded in. You have got predominantly most of the weeks playing 4-5-1. So Sanchez in goals, I was tempted by Martinez as well. I think both are good options. Still keeping Gabriel and Timber because you want that double Arsenal defense. I just think, there's better assets than Rayo out there, and you can save some money there. Mukiele's been in great form, and he plays Burnley, and Chalobah, obviously, against West Ham would come in as well. As you can see on the defensive sub, I would bench Dorgu against Fulham because I do think he might not play the full 90. But what it allows me to do is that next game week where he should be back and firing against Spurs, I'll be able to bench him for Mukiel, as I'll show you guys in a second. The midfield 5, I had some trouble picking this because there's definitely some players I wanted to, look at or keep or, etc. Like Florian Wirtz, I think, has been fantastic. Feels a bit painful to take me out the team. I was tempted by a few other players outside of Declan Rice, for instance, but Bruno Fernandes and Enzo, I think, speak for themselves. I think doubling up on Arsenal on Man United attack with Dorgu, so triple up on United with their fixture run, seems pretty good. And Mbeumo's playing through the 9 or out wide. He's looking great, so I think that's not bad. Declan Rice is more of it's him or Semenyo pick, and I just think Rice has the easier fixtures and has some routes to points. I will say that I was tempted to put Semenyo in this draft. And Morgan Rogers has been my boy. I'm not dropping him. They have some great fixtures coming up, of course. Obviously, the Robot and Haaland. And then on the bench, you got Dubravka, Krupi, Mane, and Dorgu, as mentioned. That's what this game week would look like, right? Next game week as well, you're benching Mukiel, Mane, Krupi, and obviously Dorgu comes in, which looks good. That midfield 5 has some great fixtures. The next week after that, it's the same team again. You get Dorgu against West Ham, you get Enzo against Leeds, Rogers against Brighton, who've been leaky. You got both Man United boys, Dorgu against West Ham, as mentioned. You got free Chelsea assets against Leeds. It's pretty good. And even the week after, right, it's the first time I'm not playing 4-5-1, and that's because Krupi plays West Ham away, and they're predicting to start. And he plays.
You could easily play Mukiel against Fulham at home too.
Exactly. And again, when you look at the team, you're getting everyone that's averaging basically 4.5 or more in those first three game weeks. And then if you were to optimize it again for game week 28, that's when you look at it and go, okay,
you got moves though.
Yeah, but I've got free transfers and $3 million in the bank. I could probably move some funds around to get to a better team here. Is it Enzo out to take a punt somewhere else before they go play Arsenal, Aston Villa, Newcastle? Maybe. Is it maybe Chalobah out to a different option? Without
Tarkovsky or whoever.
Yeah, without even looking at it, you'd probably look at who's got a good fixture run. So, you got City with Leeds, Forest, West Ham. So you could probably go to Gay and you could probably go to Semenyo because I got the money, right? You can go in a few different directions. If I wanted to go a little bit cheaper, I could go Collins, who played Burnley, then Bournemouth, then Wolves, and that good fixture run there for Brentford. So I think wildcarding this week has a lot of merit. And I also think wildcarding this week allows me to solve my issues, start me rolling, gives me what I think is the best template at the moment, which is 4-5-1 with the option to play 4-4-2. And gives me a team where, after those first few game weeks, I can definitely make some moves.
Man, you're getting me tempted now.
I'm definitely tempted to do it. When I speak about it, look at it more and more, I'm like, I probably should do this now and wildcard a bit earlier than what I was planning to, and then build that team, have money in the bank, roll the transfers, and be like, hey, I'm in a really good spot. If I'm optimizing that next week, it's up to a 99 team rating now. But yeah, I think that is a really good spot, and it allows me to take some punts moving forward. It's one midfielder down and Krupi or Mane to Watkins, for instance. If I want to go that route, or
I'm just trying to think, how could I get to a similar side with my team? And really, if I just remove the wild card, I think that's a fantastic team, Damo. If I'm honest, if we look at my side as an example, all I'm doing is with 2 moves, which I won't be able to do for 2 weeks, is Ekatike down. The Giu one hurts. But it might be though that I wildcard before I bench boost anyway. So if I do that, then that allows me to do that. So it could be that Ekatike goes to Mane or Krupi, and then I'm in that structure. Then it's just Iliman and Jai becomes Mbeumo, and then I'm Gabriel, Tarkovsky, Timber. And then I can spread money to the defense, whether it be Dallo or Alderete that go out to a better defender. Then I'm at that structure anyway as well. So it might just be that I try and roll a couple transfers and just get there without the wild card because I'm happy with Semenyo, Rice, Enzo, Fernandes. So then Njai can become Mbeumo or Rogers. And then it's Haaland. And then Dallo maybe comes out for a better defender, Mark Gay, whoever. So anyway, get your last couple questions in, guys. Hopefully we've been able to help with the wildcard chat as well if you are desperate for a wildcard. We have picked up a couple of subscribers tonight, which is fantastic. We're at 11 likes. If we could finish the stream off with 15 likes, if we can get 4 more likes on the stream, that would be fantastic. We're up to 194 subs on the channel as well. So if we could try and push that as close to 200 as we can, that'd be great. Get your last couple questions in before the pair of us go and sit in an ice bath, because it is so hot in Australia at the moment. We are going through a huge heat wave across the country, and there is a lot of sweat underneath this hat, and this poor fan in this room of mine has been on full blast all night, and I am absolutely cooking. So get those last couple questions in if you've got any. Otherwise, we will call it on the stream. So thank you very, very much to everybody that's joined us tonight. Thank you very much to Hippopotamus. Great content, liked and subscribed. That's what we like to hear. We are here about building community and connection amongst this community of FPL players. So we are here at 8 p.m. ACST, so Australian Central Standard Time, every Tuesday night. So set your reminders, whatever time zone you guys are in, because we have people tuning in from all over the world for our podcast. So if you could join every Tuesday, that would be fantastic. That is me and Damo done for tonight. We will see you guys next week with a review of Game Week 24 and our Game Week 25 preview.